Time for a 10-minute full body golf mobility workout. All you need is a little space on the ground and a couch. Let's get after it. Okay, so we're gonna start with tall kneeling side bends. So here you're letting your hand go towards the outside of your knee. You're trying to keep your shoulders in line with your hips, staying within what we call the frontal plane. So as you see from this side view here, watch my hand, watch my shoulders are on top of each other with my hips. So I'm fully left to right, bending as far as I can, holding it for a second each way, pushing as far as I can, breathing into the end. And then you're gonna hop straight into this kneeling protraction into a retraction and shoulder external rotation. So what you're gonna do is see how I push my shoulder blades forward as far as they can go, away from the rib cage, getting a stretch on my shirt. Those are the muscles we're trying to get a stretch on. And then we're gonna fully contract them, squeezing your shoulder blades back and together like you have an egg you're trying to crack. Now for the book openers, this is probably my favorite way to set up, with your knees just stacked one on top of the other, and then that hand applying a downward force to keep your knees tucked to the ground as you pull down and to the right with the back of your shoulder blade, squeezing your shoulder blade towards your spine like you have an egg there, trying to turn from the rib cage and not so much just from the arm. So as you see from going the other direction, it doesn't matter what I do with the arm, because what I'm trying to do is just get the spine to rotate forward and backwards as much as it can. So as you see from this direction here, it's not a perfect left to right. It's more of like my shoulder blade is going towards the dumbbell on the ground over there. Okay, so now you're going to get into this lunge here, and you're going to take the back leg and straighten it out. And then you're going to feel like your hips sinking down towards the ground with your shin bone about vertical. And from there, we're just sitting and we're breathing. All you're trying to do is just feel that hip open up. The longer you breathe, sit there, exhale, relax your nervous system, release your tension in your groin, and then switch, do it on the other side. So you'll notice that my foot is just on the outside of my hands, which are about shoulder width apart. You can play around with this though. It doesn't have to be perfect like that is, whatever feels comfortable, because all our skeletons are different length lever arms. So kind of play with this. Every move you see, you can kind of add your flair to it. It's okay, as long as you're within at least somewhat resembling this position. So then you go from that position, and you notice first thing you should see here is my shin bone is now starting to creep towards the wall to that right side. And that's because when I go down, I'm trying to get a stretch to that calf while I perform the world's greatest stretch. So this one is so great because it works on the ankle, then the hip, then we're getting some mid-spine motion. So you're going to flip to the other side, and what I want you to see from this angle here is my hand position relative to my foot position. And then when I turn, imagine a line from one collarbone connecting across. I'm trying to get that open as far as I can. As a byproduct, my arm does go further back that way, but that's not the intent. The intent's at the rib cage the entire time. So coiling and uncoiling as far as you can here. Really push the end range of your motion here. So now you're going to get into the child's pose or the prayer stretch, and you're going to favor one side. So here I'm favoring stretching that right lat. So as you see, it's almost like I'm poking up and under, trying to look under my arm. That's going to place a stretch all the way from the glute through the lat here by trying to side bend at the waist. So seeing from this angle here, I'm trying to create as much of a side bend as I can. So here on the other side, see I creeped under, looking underneath, really breathing, exhaling. With every exhale, you're going to creep a little bit deeper and feel the rib cage open a little bit more, and tell the body that it's okay to stretch to this limit, that you're not in a position where you're going to be hurt, Your body's meant to move this far. So I'm talking like that because a lot of what we're doing with yoga practices like this that can be applied to the golf game is a neurological level of input to the muscle. We want to have top-down control to the muscle through the way that we regulate our nervous system. So I hope that made some sense. But the idea here is we're breathing and we're not in a state of panic. We're in a state of this is normal. I can go a little bit further. And you're just breathing, exhaling, trying to get into that rest and digest parasympathetic nervous system so you can get further back. Now, if that is too challenging there, you can always start with your knee a little less bent. So really see video to video, whichever one of these positions is where you are at within the progression, that's where you need to be. So it doesn't matter which one it is, but I'll watch on the other side. So the full progression here, see how I'm like slowly going back little by little. That's every time I'm exhaling, I'm trying to get my heel further into my butt. So here from the first regression, the second regression, notice I'm flipping my pelvis underneath me. I'm purposely squeezing my glute, tucking my pelvis, imagining I have a tail that I'm bringing through my legs, sweeping it underneath me. That's how I'm going to get that hip flexor to be on full stretch. Now you see here for thread the needles, you can go like this, where your knees are kind of stacked over your butt, or you can go a little bit further back where you're synced into your hips. And if you can do it and your knees can tolerate it, I want you to go further back into your hips. So, but really the emphasis here is turning from the mid-spine like the last move was. So really trying to get your rib cage to turn as far as it can. And then once you do that a few times, then you're going to switch to where you put the arm across. And I like this because it fires up the posterior chain on the planted arm, where it makes a heavy demand on the rear delt, the mid trap, and the low trap due to the force that you're applying into the ground. That is such an important part of generating power in the golf swing, and this is an easy way to work on that closed chain at home. And it also works to give you a mechanical leverage to be able to twist your spine from more of a neutral position, which allows you to get into more thoracic rotation than you do when your arm is like this. So I want you to watch doing ones like this, and then watch what happens when I put my arm across my body. So I'm going to get way further. You're going to see how much more it opens up. So here we go. Now we're crossing. See the cross? Look how much more my chest is getting towards the ceiling. Look how much more my rib cage is turning, all because I'm pushing the ground this way, like the arrow shows, especially at the very top position. That's going to create that stimulus for the posterior chain and all those muscles that attach to your scapula and your humerus. Okay, so now we're getting into some downward dogs, and we're really trying to sink back as far as we can and rocking into it. So just rock, hold it for a second at the back part, but we're just trying to get loose and slowly creep deeper. You don't have to really push into a hard stretch on the first rep. You just kind of slowly build up to more and more of a stretch to your calf, your hamstring, and then you'll just finish up with this really good feel exercise while also getting to work on that newfound range of motion at your rib cage. So I just call it the clap drill. So you're just extending from there. You're kind of center with your hands, and you're going back as far as you can, and you're shifting into the hip on each side so that you're really trying to work on internal rotation at the hip, on the planted leg as well. So give that a go. I hope you liked it.